So you guys know that our van was confiscated in Mexico, and although it was a devastating situation, the situation could have definitely been avoided. So what we're going to do is we are going to give you guys some tips to avoid having your van confiscated in Mexico.
All right, so that way you don't fall into the same thing that happened to us and be stranded out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, so what happened to us was we got to the place where you get your tips and you get your FMM, which is another paper that you need while you're traveling. And we were told that if we were going to be staying in the safe zones, we wouldn't need a FMM. I'm sorry, we wouldn't need a tip. That was untrue. And at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to know the rules and the regulations of driving when you're entering another country.
First and foremost, the first tip is clearly get your tip card, which is your temporary import permit. And it costs about $55. And I think there's also a $200 to $400 refundable deposit. And it depends on what kind of vehicle and what year the vehicle is that you'll get charged a different deposit amount. And the only place you can get this tip card is either online or at the border city that you're crossing into, or crossing from the States to Mexico.
Okay, so just a quick tip. Your country's insurance may not cover you while you're in Mexico. So before you leave, make sure you check with all Mexican regulations regarding insurance, whether or not your insurance will cover, because it's so much easier to take care of things from the opposite side of trying to get them back.
It is. It's probably quicker too.
And not because, and I didn't say that because we didn't have insurance. That wasn't the problem. Like, the tip was the problem, and that was it. Like we had originally said. So I know that we started this video and we were telling you the things that you should do to not have your van confiscated, but we also want to throw in there some tips that you can take along the way on your drive through Mexico.
Right, if you do decide to go. Okay, another tip is while driving through Mexico, another tip while driving through Mexico is that you have these checkpoints, and not all checkpoints are the same. Some of us.
Why are you yelling? What the Okay, so I feel like the next thing that you should be aware of or expecting when you're traveling through Mexico is inspections. So you're gonna stop and get inspected like throughout your journey, regardless to how long it is. You're going to stop at an inspection stop. Some of them can be a little scary, and some of them can be pretty easy. But I think one of the things that helped us out while we were traveling through Mexico is the fact that we have 360 cameras around our van. So our friends over at Taddy Brothers sent us some cameras that we installed before we went over to Mexico. And while we were driving through Mexico, every time we were stopped and they would see the cameras, they would, back off and not really tell us too much. Unfortunately, our cameras weren't rolling when we stopped, and yeah, got the van taken. But yeah, so there's that. Just expect some inspection stops along your way.
Another tip would be, I guess, knowing where all the checkpoints are, and that's the way as you're pulling up, you already have your documentation in hand, so that way you're not just filling through the glove box like I usually am, reaching for this and looking for that. Because now you're just stalling them and it just looks suspicious. So already just have it in hand if you already know the checkpoints are coming up. One good thing that helped us was our app, iOverlander. You can kind of zoom in, and a lot of people will mark there's a checkpoint in that area. So that way at least you know when I'm coming up, whether it's open or closed. Sometimes it's accurate and sometimes it isn't, but at least you know there's one coming up.
And when traveling to a foreign country, knowing their language can take you so much further than not. So if you're traveling to Mexico, knowing Spanish can sometimes get you off the hook.
I can't do this.
So make sure you at least know the language, or you have your Google Translate up and running when you're pulled over.
And definitely make sure that's an offline version of that, because once again, some of these checkpoints, especially in Baja, there's no service. And if you really need something translated, you need an offline version of anything that can interpret Spanish for you.
Yeah, yeah, and since we're talking about apps, make sure that you have all the apps that you need, your Google Maps, your iOverlander, your Google Translate. Make sure you have all your apps already downloaded, because as you're going through Mexico, there's going to be some places where you're not going to get any service at all. And you're not going to find a whole lot of telcels, and if you do, some of them are not going to be open. So just make sure you have your apps downloaded so that you can have those accessed easily.
Yeah, especially Google Maps. There's an option where you could download offline maps. That way you don't always have to be connected to the internet. And I think when you download them, it lasts about 6 months on your phone downloaded. And we use that all the time because we lose service a lot in Mexico.
Yeah, so download those apps.
Yeah, I would say one tip would be that people kept telling us was that you can get a tip card anywhere in the country. That's false. You cannot get a tip card anywhere in the middle of the country. It can only be done on the border at your entry point, at certain entry points into Mexico. But you could definitely get it online. So don't take anyone's word for it. You can just get one at the nearest bank in Mexico. That's not how it works.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that when we went through this situation, there wasn't a whole lot of videos out there about how to obtain a tip or what a tip really even is. So we hope that with this video, we'll be able to help someone who's either thinking about going to Mexico or who is probably in Mexico now without a tip. It's definitely important that you have one, because what you don't want to happen is to have your vehicle confiscated.
One tip I would recommend is to carry cash. Just because, to be honest, the country does run off bribes a lot. And if it could be kind of nervous trying to offer an official money, which I wouldn't recommend. Typically, they usually ask for it first. And then I guess that would open up the door to, hey, I'm willing to accept something if you're willing to give. But I would always carry cash for that reason. But I wouldn't extend it first. I would wait for them to actually imply it before I donate it.
All right, make sure that you have your money put up, hidden in places under the seat, in your clothing, in the inserts of a book, places like that. They're not going to look. So it's definitely beneficial if you have cash on you, but it's also beneficial if that cash is not easily accessible to other people.
Right. Have different spots, different little locations where you could have cash here and there. That way it's not just all sitting in one spot.
Right.
Have like a little emergency stash in the trunk, maybe another little stash in your backpack, and maybe one in your shoe. That way it's not all in that same spot where they can just see it all and be like, well, I need all that, to let this go.
There was multiple times that we were stopped in Mexico, and I had to immediately move the money from where it was and put it in a safer place, because I know that 9 times out of 10, it's been our experience anyway, that when you're getting stopped in Mexico, they're usually just looking for money. So the times that we have been stopped, or at least since our van has been taken, the times that we have been stopped, they have been expecting money. So just make sure it's put up.
Yeah. Another tip I would recommend is, you get your new driver's license and they ask you if you want to keep the old one. I would go ahead and keep that old one. They usually punch a hole through it. That way they know it's non-usable. I would travel with those. Or if you know you're going to travel, go down to the DMV and request a duplicate. And yeah, you're going to have to probably pay another $20, $30 for a duplicate driver's license. But now you're able to drive with this duplicate, original looking driver's license in another country. And if you get pulled over by a cop and they want to take it, fine, let them take the duplicate. You still have your original driver's license that's still hidden. All right, another tip when driving through Mexico or Baja, there are no rest stops or visitor centers. I guess there's junction points where everyone kind of like just gets off, and you can just tell that's where everyone just stops to get gas or like get a taco. But don't expect there to be any rest stops or travel stops or visitor centers or anything like that.
So I guess the next thing I would say is important to have is an emergency plan. So have an emergency plan and let your family and friends know where you are, and make sure that you know where your nearest consulate or embassy is, because if you get into trouble or you need help, they might answer the phone. I'm sorry. But they might. They just might.
They might answer the phone.
Right. So, I mean, it wasn't, the situation that we dealt with, but, maybe your luck is going to be better. Hopefully it is, and that's why we're doing this video, because if we can avoid, or we can help you avoid things like that or tragic events, then, that's what we're here for.
All right, guys, so if you made it this far, type in NOLA in the comments, because we're still trying to get NOLA back. And there's a wonderful shirt. All proceeds go to getting the van back, which we have an update of. There is no update. We called the attorney, I think the day before yesterday, and he said he has not received a call or anything yet.
Yeah, he told us hopefully he'll hear something next week. So all fingers are crossed. But like Faustino said, the update is that there is no update.
And make sure, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. That helps us out a lot. And thank you to everyone that's joined us and left comments and has done everything to support us. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them in a section below. And until next time, deuces. Okay. No. Okay.
You need something else.
That's what you got, baby.
No,
I mean, we gotta finish this, and then we can do another one and see which one comes up.
Spanish does help. Speaking any foreign language, or I should say, speaking
you can't go to.
No, you can't do that.
You can't go to Mexico speaking Chinese.
You're
That's
right,
not gonna help
but
you out.
But they do have Chinese people that speak Spanish.
They do, but
and
we're
Chinese.
talking about speaking their language.
You're right.